Coming up next, we'll be talking with the author of a new book that claims to expose the dark side of Scientology and its founder, L. Ron Hubbard.
Plus, comedian Mark Jaffe and Money Watch with Betsy Ashton. So, stay for the day.
This portion of the morning program is sponsored by Mylanta 2, the double strength antacid.
The book is called L. Ron Hubbard, Messiah or Madman, and it's both controversial and shocking. It's about the founder of the Church of Scientology, and among other things, it charges that Hubbard used drugs and abused women and children. The book is co-authored by Brent Corydon and L. Ron Hubbard Jr., Ron Hubbard's son. Mr. Corydon is with us this morning. Good morning, Mr. Corydon. For those of us not familiar with Scientology, why don't you give a brief explanation of what it is, and then I'd like to go into your feelings about it.
It is apparently a psychotherapy. It has some of the cream of Oriental philosophy in it. The facts are it's an expression or a vehicle through which L. Ron Hubbard hoped to make enormous amounts of money, and did in fact achieve that. It's an expression of his lust for power, greed, avarice. It's an extension of this man. The judge in California actually called it the alter ego of L. Ron Hubbard.
Did he actually say at one point that if you want to make a lot of money, you come up with a religion?
Yes, he did. He said that on 2 or 3 occasions, but one that I've been able to document.
Now, tell us a little bit about L. Ron Hubbard. We all hear those ads, Dianetics and yes. All of that. You're aware of those ads, yeah.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about the man, or what you uncovered about the man.
That he was a heavy user of drugs in the 40s. He's a bigamist. I'm the first one to have interviewed his second wife by bigamist marriage. She hasn't talked for 35 years. And the story that comes out is that he was a heavy drug user, which, given the front of anti-drugs and so on, was amazing to me. And out of his mental illness, which was quite severe, he asked for help in the late 40s from the Navy psychiatrists. Like one of the things he said at that time that expresses where this man was at and what happened was, he said, all men shall be my slaves. All mankind shall grovel at my feet and not know why. These were things he said under drugs to sort of get himself psyched up. And he wrote a book which is very seductive, very attractive in many ways, and quite workable in many ways. And this is what's presented out front through that book. And it's because of its attractiveness, it's extremely dangerous. Reader's Digest called it one of the most dangerous cults in America. It is, as far as I uncovered, the most dangerous because of its deceitfulness. The front is so attractive. The film stars up front, John Travolta, Priscilla Presley, these people have no idea what they're representing to the public and what was really behind the scenes,
well,
what was going on.
How do they get fooled? These aren't dumb people. These are bright people. They're creative. Yes. What are some of the tactics that he uses to fool people?
It's just, he's a marvelous writer, and there's a genius side to this man, and he presented such a benign front, and there's such great people he collected around him who are so sympathetic, and you get caught up in this whole wonderful thing. And the fact is, behind the scenes is this money-making contraption which has as its essence a thing that he wrote down called the fair game law, which means that anybody that crosses, and you don't discover this until you cross them, you criticize them in some way, and if you do, when you do that, you then discover that you are fair game, which means you may be injured by any means, by any Scientologist, may be lied to, tricked. This is official dogma of this man.
But are there documents of this? Have people been harmed?
Oh, absolutely. This came up in court. Enormous amounts of people have been harmed. They sent somebody up to beat me up over this book, for instance, beat up my friend instead. Sent somebody out to steal a copy of the thing. This is most recent, but it's a litany of families.
Tell us about his boat.
He was from 67 onwards, he gathered about him 300-400 people, took a ship and sailed out into the Mediterranean. And there he was looking for past life gold in a James Bondsian sort of adventure. He being the Goldfinger of James Bond, tried to take over the world, in fact. He wanted the country, Vesco style, he wanted to buy one. So he had to find his gold from past lives. And he actually had teams out there looking for this gold that he'd buried as a pirate in the 1500s, supposedly. And then he stashed money the entirety of his life up through last year when he died. He was at one point accumulating at least $1 million a week, according to one witness who signed the checks.
Where is all that money now?
I would assume that it's under the care of Pat Broker, who drives a red Ferrari and has taken, he's his ex-chauffeur of Hubbard, who has taken over the estate. I believe, mostly. Or it may still be hidden. That's, they will not disclose their money, so it may be stashed somewhere for Hubbard to come back to, quote unquote.
Now, one thing I don't understand, this was supposedly written with you and L. Ron Hubbard Jr., but I thought there are all kinds of affidavits that he wants his name taken off, and
yes.
there was a legal case about it. Explain that. What's your relationship with him now?
Well, it's non-existent. It was for the first year very good, and I got an awful lot of information from him. But the church caught him at a point where he was extremely ill, and he had harbored near death for a few days. He's a diabetic and had been quite sick. And he needed the money desperately. He was standing guard in a bank at night, and I believe he's still very sympathetic to the book, but he took the money.
Why do you think this is happening so much these days, the Moonies and the Scientologists, and what is it in us that seems to need to be led by a human God that could be leading us down one path or another? Have you thought about that?
A lot, because
I mean,
I was caught up for 22 years.
22. Now, what kind of a person were you that you needed that 22 years ago?
I think I was idealistic and young, and I just wanted answers. I think we all need answers. Society doesn't provide too many answers, and the spiritual, like the Jimmy Baker thing, you know, people are rushing for that. And Jimmy Baker, I mean, compared to Hubbard, looks like Mother Teresa. But
no, I think Tammy looks more like Mother Teresa.
But no, I mean, that's the sort of urge, is we need answers, you know, and it can be exploited. And he exploited the goodness in people. I think I was a good person at that stage, and still am. But
what stage is this in now? Are there suits against him? Are there suits against him? Because we've gotten all kinds of letters. It's a very angry church, the Scientologist church now.
Yes.
What is happening with you?
With me personally?
Yes, with the book. The book is coming out, but are there a lot of suits against
Oh, every attempt has. There's been 6 or 7 books prior to mine. They've all been squashed one way or another, bought off or harassed. You know, and in my case, they sent somebody in to get the manuscript early so they could sue me and bribe a couple of the printers. She went to jail, and you know, they've just been going flat out trying to get this thing. But this is out. I have a very gutsy publisher, and people that buy the Dynex book should buy this book also.
L. Ron Hubbard, Messiah or Madman? Thank you very much for
coming. Thank you, Maria.
Coming up next, we'll have Money Watch with Betsy Ashton, plus comedian Mark Jeffy. So stay with us.